Hello, it's time for another episode of Discipleship Today. My name is Bob Benson. I pastor Christ Lutheran Church. We've been talking about discipleship, what it looks like, what it doesn't look like, the greatest model of discipleship in Jesus Christ. And we've been talking about how is it that we're doing, and are we reevaluating? Today, I want to bring up a handful of ideas that are challenges to modern day discipleship, and they are modern challenges to our modern day discipleship. First and foremost, and I fall into this as well, there's a technological impact on connection today. And we don't just see it in discipleship, we see it within the church, we see it within our interpersonal relationships. Digital, impersonal interaction has replaced face-to-face community. We see that all over our lives. It hinders the development of genuine, accountable relationships. How many friends do you have on Facebook? How many friends do you have on Instagram or any of the other platforms? It vies for our attention over the personal relationships. I've made a vow to myself that anytime I'm with my wife, I'm not on a device. And that's helped us to develop a better relationship. My wife and I have been in a restaurant and seen a couple come in. You could tell we're on a date. And they sat there, and the first thing the guy did was get out his phone. He never looked up from his phone the whole meal. Never said a word to her. And she sat there staring at him like, well, if this is a first date, there's never going to be a second date. And I got that. And we all deal with some of this, okay? Another challenge, hindrance to discipleship relationships is this whole convenience mentality. We as a culture have a desire for instant gratification, which clashes with long-term demanding nature of spiritual formation. There is no instant gratification in the discipleship model. You do occasionally see some victories for your disciples, but it's a long, hard slog, and most people aren't willing to pour into that. Another challenge, and I'm painting with a pretty broad brush here, is we have biblical illiteracy within our church, and we have a relevance issue. Challenges arise in helping believers connect foundationally to the biblical truths to our modern issues today. We're constantly bombarded with questions about identity, social justice, and gender. And those have taken the forefront. And we can't let them take the forefront. We have to take our time, that instant gratification, pour into our Bibles, commit it to our hearts and our minds, and let it change our lives. The next one is lack of good mentors and role models. And even when we see good mentors and role models in our modern world today, they destroy themselves through some action that they take. There's a shortage of mature believers willing to invest the significant time required on one-on-one discipleship. That's an issue. The next issue is we're so immersed in a culture that almost lifts up individualism and independence. A culture of self-sufficiency often creates resistance to the vulnerability and the accountability necessary for disciple making in our world today. It takes time, it takes effort, and it's not easy. And people feel that they're self-made. When they feel that they're self-made, are they going to pour into a discipleship relationship? That's a problem. And then the last challenge that we have today is internal church issues. The mentality today is bigger is better. So people love to go to the big churches. That mindset causes some churches to prioritize large gatherings over single person, two-person gatherings. a one-on-one relationship. How can you have one-on-one relationships when you have 1,000 people in church on Sunday morning? Now, it's possible, but it takes a lot more effort and planning to do it. I love the whole biblical model of growth. As a synagogue before the first century, as it reached 10 families, as soon as they got above that, they would split. So it made very small personal congregations. 80% of the churches in the U.S. today are 100 members and under, and I think that's a good thing. I'm not against these large gatherings, but it's very hard to have personal relationships. I went to a church with a family member of mine, and I was excited to meet her friends, and she said, "My friends?" And I said, "Yeah, the people in your Sunday school class." She says, "There are 120 people in my Sunday school class, and I don't know any of them." That's a problem. That's a disconnect problem, and it defeats discipleship. We have to deal with these modern problems as we try and go into all the world making disciples. We have to confront them head on. We have to realize what the problems are and then pour into it. I'm encouraging you to reevaluate some of these modern problems and see if you can't pour into a one-on-one personal relationships, or one-on-two, or I'm not going to get hung up on the numbers, but personal relationships. So for Discipleship Today, my name is Bob Benson. Thank you for taking the time to watch.